So good afternoon. Welcome everyone to Tuckahoe Talk Town Hall. We are in person and virtual, and this is for the virtual folks. If you have any questions, go on the little chat on there and on the right side of the screen, or you can email Victoria, and I have to read her email, dav127@henrico.gov. So again, on the chat, you can put your question in on there, or you can email Victoria and we'll try to get to it after this. We have a extremely full presentation today. I have a number of folks that are here. Let me get my next clicker. We have a number of folks from the county. So I really have sort of 4 topics to go over today. One is a little bit of a budget review. We've gone through the budget process for the past 2 weeks, and we presented it to the community on Tuesday night. We'll vote on it next Tuesday, April the 8th. I guess it's 2 Tuesdays, not next Tuesday, the following one. April the 8th, we'll vote on the budget. We're going to give you a few 5-10 minute highlights on that. We're going to also talk about, we have some finance staff here. Mr. Marsh is going to talk about the REAP and the recap program that we have funded again. We're going to talk a little bit about the water crisis from January 6th. I think if you were in our meeting last time, we touched on it a little bit. I'll touch on it a little bit, but I have our water expert, Mr. Bentley Chan, here to talk about where we are with that. We will also go over the community rating system. This is really exciting stuff by Ms. Owens and her team. I think maybe Mr. is going to do it as well, or maybe Ms. Owens is going to still be here for the community rating system. And we're going to bring in Mr. Rob Rowley. He's over here to talk about our, emergency management and how you can sign up for alerts on your cell phone. We're going to go through that process with you. We learned, especially in the water crisis. How many are we up to now, Rob, that have signed up for the 90,000 people have signed up so far? Excellent. So maybe we'll get 90 plus another 40 here. But it's a good way for us to get you text alerts when a crisis is going out. Okay, with that, let's go ahead, and I just wanted to kind of talk through where we are with the budget. This is what we did for the past 2 weeks. This is our budget. It's all online. If anybody wants to look through this copy, you're more than welcome to afterwards. This has sort of some of my notes in it. But we go through the entire budget, and really a couple of things I want to highlight. Yes, we are proposing a rate reduction. I know that down to 83 cents. I know everybody's assessments have gone up, so I get it. You're still paying more in actual taxes, but we're trying to bring that rate down every year. And I know we're working hard to bring that rate down even more, hopefully. But we're also giving personal property. So your vehicle tax from $340 to $335. So again, not everybody owns a home and pays the real estate tax, so it doesn't affect everyone. This helps everyone that has a car. Business personal property would go from $350 to $335. So again, just trying to manage those rates down a little bit. I do want to kind of go over a history of the reductions. As you know, I've been a board of supervisor for about 14 or 15 months, so I can't take credit for anything on the left side. But we have, as a county, really tried to work that real estate tax rate down over the years. And this just shows the history. And again, all of this is online. This presentation will be put online. The video will be up on YouTube in about 24, 48 hours. You'll see that as well. But just again, showing through time from 78, the rate going down. You know, this is a good slide because it shows how we compare to other localities. And again, there are other localities that are Goochland, they're much, much smaller than us, but the larger localities on kind of where we are with our real estate rate, you see 83 cents proposed in 26, where we are with personal property and where we are with our business property tax. And you'll see us really, I think in all these categories, we, besides maybe Chesterfield at 335 along with us, we are lower than the rest of these localities that are mostly like our size. One quick slide on the fund distribution. So people ask me all the time, where's our money going, Mr. Rogish, Jody? Where are we sending our money? It's kind of important that you see, and all you see on the left side is the fiscal year 25, the general budget, 56.1% to education. On the right side, that's our proposed for fiscal year 26. Again, the majority of the money does go to education. 22% goes to public safety, and then 21% goes to the rest of general government. So again, just a very high level. I covered this entire book in 5 minutes. It took us about a week or so to go through this, but it's a good budget. It looks at the schools. It looks at our general government. It looks at estimates from revenue coming in and what we're going to spend. It's a budget. It's proposed budget. So I do encourage everyone online. It's out there. You can look at it. If you have any questions at all about it, send me an email. My email is super easy. Tuckahoe@henrico.gov. Tuckahoe@henrico.gov. Send me an email, and if I can't answer it, which maybe I will not, I will send it to one of my experts over here, and we'll be sure to get you an answer. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our finance team, and Mr. Marsh is going to go through the REAP and the recap programs that are out there for folks. Okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogish. As Mr. Rogish said, my name is Leo Marsh, and I work with the Finance Department of Henrico County. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share information with you about our tax relief programs. I have brochures and also applications. So after the presentation, please catch me if this is something that is of interest to you or of someone you know. What I'm going to do is talk about two different tax relief programs that we have. And the first one is the Real Estate Advantage Program. We call it REAP, so you'll hear me slip and say REAP because it's a little easier than saying Real Estate Advantage Program. This is a program we've had for over 50 years. The board has generously over the years increased the thresholds for this program and also the amount of relief. This one is a 100% tax relief program for those who qualify. We have also added last year the recap program, which provides a cap on real estate taxes. This is for folks that may not meet the qualifications for the original program REAP. This offers some level of relief. What REAP actually offers is 100% relief up to $3,200 in taxes for those who qualify. Recap for qualified applicants freezes the tax bill as of the year that the individual qualified for the program, and it stays frozen or capped at that amount for as long as they continue in the program. If the rate goes down or if the value of the house goes down, the tax bill goes down. So the amount goes below what the cap is. So you're covered either way. We are one of the largest programs for tax relief in the state. Last year we had over 7,100 applicants, close to $14 million in relief, and the program's grown significantly in the past 2 to 3 years. Here are the qualifications. And this program is for, or both programs are actually for folks that are 65 years or older, or permanently and totally disabled, and their income and net worth are not over certain limits. I'll start with the REAP income limit. This is for the 100% relief program. The income is limited to $75,000. And this is also, it's not your gross income. This is whatever the IRS considers taxable. So there are certain things such as Social Security that are not taxed at 100% by the IRS. So your gross Social Security might not be taxed at 100% and counted for this program. So that's what our staff is for, to help you walk through these types of situations. The net worth is limited to $500,000, and this is exclusive of the value of the home that is being relieved, meaning your residence, and up to 10 acres of land. So most people, this is a bit of a question that they have is, does my house count towards my net worth? And it does not. So for the recap program, the limits are a little higher. The income limit is $125,000, and it's the same type of calculation that we use for REAP, the other program. Net worth for recap is $750,000, and again, it's exclusive of the value of the dwelling and up to 10 acres of land. We do have, along with this program, a chart that just shows this out. Some of the items that are considered income, things like wages or retirement income, Social Security income, unemployment compensation. This is actually an excerpt from one of our applications. And for net worth, it's things like real estate other than your residence, which some people own, and retirement accounts and checking accounts, stocks and bonds. There's also offsets for debts that are not part of the mortgage for the home that's being relieved. So if there's credit card debts or car loans, those can be counted against or offsetting your net worth. Some of the other initiatives we've had, Mr. Rogish already mentioned the lower tax rate for personal property. We also have some lower or tax relief for motor vehicles for physically handicapped persons, people that have things added to the vehicle, such as a lift or that sort of thing. Those would fall under this particular category, and it's taxed at an extremely low rate. We don't tax antique vehicles. We also have some tax relief for disabled veterans, which would include vehicle personal property and also the vehicle license. So if anybody has questions about those, I will be happy to, like I said, I have applications and also brochures at the back there, but I have them as well. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. With that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Rose.
Are there any questions for Mr. Marshall on that? Yes, ma'am.
We had about 65 to 6,600 last year that received some form of relief. The overwhelming majority were under the REAP program, which takes up to $3,200 worth of taxes off of their bill. So, yes. Process, we have staff.
Repeat the question just so that it's online.
How long does the process take? This is something where you don't need an appointment to come into our office. And we have staff that are there available to help walk you through the application. And also there's supporting documentation people provide with it, like their tax returns, to get all that together. Usually people that come into our office can get it done in a half hour to an hour. Sometimes it takes longer, just depends on the person. Okay. If you give me your name, I can check on it and address. The short answer is not that I'm aware of, and I can tell you the question for the home audience is the status of the Personal Property Tax Relief Act for your vehicles, and it covers cars, trucks, and motorcycles that are used for personal purposes. Each locality has a set amount of money from the state that's allocated towards this, and this year's percentage is 42% of the first $20,000 in value of the vehicle. And this was something that was passed in 1998. It was originally intended to cover the entire amount of personal property tax for localities. It's a reimbursement from the state to the localities. It was never fully funded. In 2006, it was capped at $950 million, and that amount has not increased. So unfortunately, as more vehicles come into the county and as the values of vehicles go up, the percentage of relief goes down. We started at 70, now we're at 42. Hopefully that answered the question. The question is, where can we find the information about where the money from real estate taxes and other taxes, how that's distributed? And that's typically in our budget document or also our comprehensive annual.
I mean, so help me out a little bit, but where I would go first is just do a search for Henrico County budget 2026. There are, I think, 4 links on the page, one sort of an overview. And I think a lot of that information is sort of a 60-slide overview. I think it would have some of that there. And then you can also look in the details. And I can show you afterwards directly in the 740 pages on where that would be. Be more than happy to. Yes, sir, Mr. Mizell. So, okay, just for the home audience, the feed. I'm sorry, Miss Billy. Yeah, I think the comment from the back is that the word tax relief is being used maybe a little inappropriately. It's maybe not, we're lowering the rate inappropriately, and we're lowering the rate and not necessarily giving relief, because if your home is going up, your assessment went up 8%. 15%, then yeah, I hear it. I will say that, and it hasn't been in the news. If you saw the Henrico Citizen, I don't know if the Henrico Citizen's watching. They reported on some school rezoning last week, and we were on the news for that. Unfortunately, what was not reported was a 6% raise across the board for all county employees, including the schools, and schools is within that. So that's where the majority of the money, the 6% increase in our budget, is mostly going for school and for teachers, et cetera. So there was one other question back here. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That's a good question. And for the folks at home, the question is for the tax relief program for real estate, does the person have to reapply or did they just apply once? And this is, you apply first, and then for the next 2 years, you file what's called a certification, which is just a statement that you sign that says nothing has changed. And then starting with the 4th year, you reapply again. So it's they call it a triennial cycle. And this is something that's required by state code. Actually, under the state code, of the localities could require an application every year where you do the full application process. We've taken the most lenient approach that's allowed, which would be to have it done triennially with the certification in between for those 2 years. That answers the question.
Any other questions on that? Okay, we are going to move on to water. And I briefly talked about Cobb's Creek Reservoir last time that we had this meeting. For those of you that don't know, Cobb's Creek Reservoir was recently finished in the last 6 months. It is in Cumberland County. It holds about 12 billion gallons of water, or it will hold 12 billion gallons of water. It covers 1,100 acres or so. And this is a picture of it. And what we have on our website is a live cam image. And so we are going to show that, I think. But you can go out. It's on our public website. I think it's the first and only camera that we have maybe on our website that's actually broadcasting live feeds. I could be wrong about that. But this is a live cam from Cobb's Creek. You can see it is filling up. Let's hit play one more time. It is filling. What's the estimate, Mr. Chan, on when this will be filled? You think it'll be by Memorial Day?
So maybe a little bit after, but definitely this year. And thank you. So definitely this year. So we are kind of at the top. So if you think of the reservoir as a bowl, there's more area as you get further up, and so we're more than halfway full, but we are filling those top areas right now. And like Mr. Rogish said, 12 billion gallons. There is a very interesting video of the Department of Wildlife Resources shooting fish into the reservoir, so that those fish can grow and they can be fished. I think so, yeah. So they can be fished.
They continue to be.
Yes, and so you'll be able to go and take your boat out there and utilize this as a recreation amenity. But you do have to drive to Cumberland to utilize it.
And you're going to stay up here with me, Mr. Chan, because I'm going to ask you a few questions. This is what we did last time too. But the importance of Cobb's Creek Reservoir was built so that we in Henrico County, we have the authority to release a certain amount of water from that reservoir. We're not building a pipe from the reservoir all the way to Henrico. We can release the water and it will come down the James River. And then in our plant, we can actually then pull the water out of the James River from the reservoir. And he'll get technical, but how much can we pull out a day?
So the county, from our treatment plant on 3 Chop Road, you may have seen it, we produce about 30 to 40 million gallons per day for use in the county. We have the ability to pull up to 80. And with this reservoir, we have an additional, I think 47. And so with all of those numbers combined, we can satisfy the water needs for the county for at least 50 years. And we'll actually get into some more about water. But the Board of Supervisors authorized this project as a means to look at the overall needs of the county for 50 to 100 years. And so it is through their forethought that this project was authorized and completed, and all residents of the county and the region will see the benefits. And one of the other things to note is that we all remember pretty bad droughts in the summer. And so this tool, because there is no pipe and the water goes back into the James River, it will help with drought mitigation.
Yeah, and I think in the very top right corner, there's you can see a little white in the very top right corner there, and that's actually a little boat ramp that's built on the Cobb Creek Reservoir. So we've been out there twice now. It's a beautiful place, and I encourage you after Memorial Day, it'll be filled up to utilize. Maybe a ribbon cutting. Excellent. With that, so any question on Cobb's Creek real quick? Yes? No.
No. No, ma'am. It is river water, which not salt water, but river water. So all of the rainwater that gets into the James River in high flow conditions. So when it's very rainy and very wet and the river level is high, we are authorized to take some of that water, hold it in this reservoir. So when the river level is low, we can kind of let it go back out.
So
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
does that mean
No, this would just allow us to pull water out of the James River when it's high enough to pull it into our water plant to treat it.
people down there?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's not in the same area. No, nothing to do. Okay, yes, ma'am. Yeah, I mean, excuse me. Right now, we are not scheduled to remove the fluoride from our water in Henrico. We are trying to follow all VDH, all the science that's out there. Right now, we're not there at this point. So we are, to answer your question, we pump the water from the James River into our plant. We then treat it. We actually just won an award for our water in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we have no plans at this time that I'm aware of. So.
Do you believe
I don't know if it's required or recommended personally. I have not done. I mean, I've started to look at the research, but I can absolutely hand it over to Mr. Chan.
So thank you for the question. It's a question that we've answered before. VDH is the regulatory authority over our drinking water system and many others in the Commonwealth. And so what I'll say, and Ms. Ramsey, you and I have talked before about this. When VDH, when the regulatory authority says that you should not be putting fluoride into the water, we will follow the science. We will follow their direction. And I know you've said that, and you've said some things about me. I think the word was tyrannical, and that I should be locked up. And so I mean the thing is that.
ordinance in him, right?
Well, I don't know that I'm not sure who's making the decision. You have brought this to our attention, and I said we are still looking into it. I know my colleagues and I are, and so that's our answer. So we're going to move on to the next one. Okay, now we have water. We with Cobbs Creek, we have enough water in our county that we can pull into our plant. He referenced the number over 100 million gallons a day. That we have the ability to produce water. Of course, what happened in January was unfortunate because the Richmond water plant went down. And as we've learned over time, and Mr. Chan's going to get into it a little bit longer, we have water that we buy from the city's Richmond plant, about 10 million gallons a day that we bring in. And there are connections, and not to get overly complicated, but you'll see some of the green up there and some of the little triangles where we actually bring water in from the city. So if you live close to the University of Richmond, for example, some of your water's coming from the city of Richmond. I explained this before. The pressure that comes from that city plant and our plant produces the water and pushes the water across our entire county. What we learned in January from Mr. Chan was when the water treatment plant went down in Richmond, we had enough water to get to the eastern side of the county, but we didn't have enough pressure to get it over there. And he's going to talk a little bit about maybe some solutions, but that's in the summary of how it went on January 6th. So thank you for all of the work that you did to get the water back online, basically in the city, and required us to boil water for about 48 hours. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rogish. So I think all of us, this is very fresh in our memory, what happened in January. And I do applaud all of the county agencies as well as the community. I mean, we saw stuff that we had never seen before, of people coming out, helping their neighbors, helping each other, and really coming together in what was a very catastrophic situation. So I mean, our Department of Public Utilities gets some accolades, but really my hat is off to the community who really pulled through in this really dire situation. And so Mr. Rogish was saying that yes, kind of all along the Henrico Richmond border, there are meters that take water from the city of Richmond and pump it into our system and for our customers. And the majority of that is in the eastern part of the county. So you see where it says LAZ. So that area kind of all the way east is primarily served by a long-term contract that we have with the city of Richmond. And the reason we have that contract is the entirety of the county used to be served by the city of Richmond. And in the early 2000s, the county wanted to look at they wanted to look at being able to serve themselves. And to be able to build our plant on Three Chop, we had to enter into that agreement with the city of Richmond. And so that agreement sunsets in 2040. And based on that and the situation in January, the county has fast-track plans to build additional infrastructure that will take us offline from the city source. So in the next 5 to 7 years, and through the efforts of Mr. Rogish and the other board of supervisors, they have identified and allocated funding for us to begin that work. And so in the next 5 to 7 years, you'll see a network of pipes kind of crisscrossing the county to serve the entirety of the county through our own source. And so major investments from not only our drinking water plant, but Cobb's Creek, all of this underground infrastructure that will ultimately allow us to serve the entirety of the county by ourselves, but also allow us to be a more regional provider of water. So you'll see, hopefully you'll see us be a backup to Hanover, as well as be able to serve the city if anything like this ever happens again. And so we do get the question from time to time about, well, what are you doing to make sure that what happens in the city of Richmond doesn't happen at our plant? And yes, absolutely. We have a lot of backups in our system, a lot of redundancy. We're building that redundancy into the entire system as it goes across the county. And so our motto is resiliency and sustainability. And so not only will you see those pipes, you'll see kind of what we're calling mini reservoirs to hold a lot of that water during the day. So during the day, it gets used. At night, it gets filled up. And so whenever there's any sort of emergency, we can expect that we would continually be in water and not have a lot of the issues, or not have any of the issues that we saw in early January. So did you want to open it up for some questions? Okay.
Open it up for some questions. Yes, ma'am. Are the big green tanks, are those water tanks off of Starling, et cetera?
Yes, they are. And so that is part of the overall storage that we have, and we plan to build more. And so you see, like if you're driving on 64, you see that really tall tank. That one's blue. But you may also see the one at Parham and West Broad. Those are all water tanks that we use to hold water for use, but also like kind of maintain pressure within the system. And so one of the very interesting things, or at least interesting to me because I'm in this business, is that we have been running those tanks like really full, like kind of like as full as we can ever since the water crisis in January, to make sure that, hey, if anything happens, we have a buffer. And so we'll continue to do that. And we're looking at it Actually daily. So there's a update that goes out to our county leadership about like tank levels and what we're doing in the system. And so normally in the winter months, there's not as much usage. So those tanks are normally lower, but we as a practice have are making sure that those tanks are full at all times so that, I mean, knock on wood for any issue.
Yes, sir. The one at Ridge and Parham needs a paint job, so we will add that to the list.
One.
What are you doing later today, sir?
Oh, I'm painting a tank.
I guess you're painting a tank.
So we have one that we're painting now, and so
Very good. Thank you. Yes, sir. The question is, we are building the pipes within the next 5 to 7 years. When would we be completely separated from the city? So I think what he said, yes, it will take 5 to 7 years to build that out, to become resilient to get off of the city of Richmond's water. We don't have plans. We actually, as he mentioned, we're under contract with the city to purchase 9 million, 10 million, et cetera, gallons a day until 2040. So, and I don't know that we wouldn't, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. Do we want to extend that? Do we want to completely stay off of them? There are pluses and minuses on all sides of the equation, to be honest with you. As Mr. Chan mentioned, for 125 years, we've been getting water from the city of Richmond, and that plant has been relatively reliable, stable, et cetera, has its issues, et cetera. If something were to happen to our plant, either he didn't wake up the next day because he wanted to sleep in. We had a terrorist attack. We had, a mechanical failure. Not having the Richmond plant could present a bigger issue regionally. So we are thinking through all those things, to be honest with you. So is there a question? Yes, ma'am.
Water crisis since Flint, Michigan years ago. And there was a lot of criticism from many community groups, but I applaud the reaction of the administrator. And like you said, communities came together, officials came together. I even saw Mr. Rogish on the news passing out water. So we really appreciate the response. And my question really is, some of us were minimally impacted. Some of us in Henrico were very much impacted. What would prevent, we're talking about redoing the pipes and things like that, but why should we really be concerned about the water and all of those things? I think just getting some information on, it's important. We didn't think about it until January, but why should this be an issue that we now should focus on given what happened in January?
I'll give my 2 cents on that. Great question. Thank you. When you peel back what government should do, right? We need to be safe, right? So police, fire, 911 have to work really well. And we need to get you clean water, and we need to take away your dirty water, right? And those are really important things for a local government to do. And so when I first got the text from my colleague, Reverend Nelson, on Tuesday morning, maybe it was Wednesday morning, but he said, Mr. Manager, there's nothing coming out of my spigot. And so that was the first that I had heard that there was even an issue on the eastern side of the county. And so, given the history, right, the city of Richmond used to provide all the water for everything until we built the plant. It's been relatively reliable, but I think securing up, and if you look at the map, you can kind of see, right, the darker line up there, that's the bigger pipe. Is that a technical term, right? The bigger pipe. So you see the bigger pipe going from our West End plant, our water treatment facility, kind of goes there, and then it kind of stops. And so the plan is to kind of secure that up a little bit, but maybe not completely get off of the city of Richmond. We're working with them to see what the solutions might be, because having 2 plants, to provide the entire region would be ideal, to be honest with you. So, okay, we're going to move on. If there are any other last minute water questions, yes, sir.
On the radio, I heard that Lakeland, Florida has discontinued adding chlorides to the water. Fluorides, excuse me. And also state of Utah is discontinuing that practice. Are you aware of that?
I think we are aware that,
Thank you. Follow the example. Follow their example. It's good practice, good for people.
yeah.
Thank
and-
you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. We are aware. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Oh, I'm sorry. Another?
Hi, I just wanted to let everyone know, my name is Beth. I am in our Public Relations Department. I focus specifically with public utilities and public works. So I've been working very closely with Bentley. He's amazing. I wanted to let everyone know that Bentley and I are going to be putting out a podcast, not next week, the week after. We're going to be filming it and putting it out. And we're going to be discussing the water crisis, what's coming up afterwards. It's going to be a discussion about all of the things that you guys may be thinking about. I just wanted to let you all know that that is coming and make sure to look out for it on, our website, our social media, everything like that. I just wanted everyone to know that that was coming.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to talk a little, before we get to that, we are expanding garbage service in Tuckahoe from the county's perspective. And 30 seconds, you see phase 1, phase 2, roughly phase 1, we're saying summer of 26 and phase 2, summer, fall 27. He said spring, but I gave myself another couple of months there. So we're going to try to beat those timelines. But we know county garbage service doesn't go all the way. And again, this is just, I know there's some residents here outside of Tuckahoe. This is a Tuckahoe meeting, so I only put the Tuckahoe side of the chart up. We are expanding it around the entire county for other magisterial districts as well. Okay? Oh, quick, statement.
Oh, yes. Quick thing. Yes. Also garbage guy. So quick thing. If you are a REAP or recap participant, you get one free bulky waste pickup per year. So think of like big things that you can't fit into your trash can. Like if you are a REAP or recap a participant, you get one of those free every year.
You are the garbage guy. Before we get to the other one, there's word on the street, Public Works. I put a QR code online. I think we have some of these in the back. Please grab one, sign up for this. This is an email that will be generated from Public Works that basically will tell you things that are happening just in the district that you care the most about, which is Tuckahoe. Maybe you care about Three Chopt as well. Maybe you care about the other districts. You can check the little boxes, but you can get information just to your email about what's happening in Tuckahoe. So, like the Moreland Road, we're working on a sidewalk down there, some pedestrian improvements on Patterson Avenue. But this is a great tool, and we have one for Parks and Rec as well, specific to the district. So again, you can customize that out on the website. And if you can't find it on the website, email me at tuckahoe@henrico.gov, and I'll make sure to get you the information. Okay? Yes, ma'am. You can ask it. Go ahead.
I had reached out to you and Mr. Hughes about the sidewalk on Mayberry from the elementary to Patterson. Appreciate your response. It's disappointing when I'm looking at like a South Moreland Road and others getting it versus a sidewalk that is connecting in elementaries.
So it's a great point. And so she's asking about this sidewalk between Mayberry Elementary School and Patterson Avenue, essentially. And so everybody knows that's a 6-acre piece of land in Tuckahoe that still has trees on it. There aren't very many of those in Tuckahoe. That has been rezoned prior to me being in office for an assisted living facility. Okay. That assisted living facility is required to build a sidewalk when they build the assisted living. Now, your question is it's a great question, because what if they never build it? We never have a sidewalk. So that's where my response back was, I'm going to get with Mr. Hughes, and we need to come to a decision to say whether or not we're going to build that or not without them. And we'll figure a way to do that, and still maybe try to hold them. So
I appreciate your attention to that.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. There is a for sale sign on that property again. Are you buying it?
No, but I wish.
It can, we probably could, yes, if it, yes, it's not, it's, yes, ma'am.
I live in that neighborhood as well. And I was involved like Beth and Linda in the rezoning. And I think, for an issue that affects everyone, you go through rezoning and then it goes to plan of development and construction plan. And we've been through rezoning on that 6-acre plot twice now. And in both cases, it was rezoned. It was voted on by your predecessors, and then nothing was built. So this last time, we followed all the way to the end. We went and, observed what happened with plan of development. And it was pretty eye-opening that, they went through the process and you have to get approvals from a wide group of people. They could never get VDOT's approval. VDOT wanted them to move the power lines. And like most builders, they have a plan that uses up every square foot of the property. They build it all out. And so, for a year, they kind of held them off because I guess VDOT has a plan to change all of the intersections along Patterson. And then once they finally looked at it, they said, no, they wanted them to move the lines. And I guess the county went ahead and approved the plan of development without VDOT saying, and I know this was all before your time, saying that it was a county process and they did not need VDOT's approval. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what happened last time when Gumminick was going to make the 0 lot line homes. They also, anybody building there is going to have the turn lane for the elementary school. But from the community standpoint, having been through this twice, and every time, we deal with very good people in the planning department, but it's always, been like 10, 12 years. So it's all new people who are learning it all. It's just not a very good use of county resources or our time, to just approve the plan of development. It seems like we're lacking in some sort of a system where if you go through and you get a rezoning, but you cannot get that plan of development or that construction plan approved, we don't expect anyone on the Board of Supervisors to be experts in everything. You're not the expert in VDOT or in environmental permitting. You can only vote with the information you have at the time. But if more information comes up later, it seems like we're lacking in any sort of a system where you can roll back that rezoning.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I don't have all the answers. I'm gonna get your information afterwards. And I need to get a little smarter about a couple of things you said. I'm not sure how much time. And then when they go through a rezoning, they can drag it out. They don't have to submit plans this year. They can wait till market conditions are right. There's not enough people that want us to, there's a lot of reasons why a developer may not move forward. But to answer your question, if they never move forward on this particular piece, like it leaves us without a sidewalk to get those kids from Mayberry. So that's where, yeah. So that's a good, so the next question is, how do we prioritize the sidewalks? We have in this budget set aside $7 or $8 million for pedestrian, I'm sorry, not just sidewalk, pedestrian improvements across the entire county. And so we do it by your emails to me, frankly, to be quite honest with you. And then I try to negotiate which is the best. And side note, I was at Freeman yesterday. They have a Project Maverick in the senior class. They do projects, but one of the persons did an actual project on exactly what you're saying. And so we would prioritize them around schools because, and she would like to get all the way to, the YMCA there too. So it becomes a little more complicated with that state road, et cetera. And we'll go off that. One last question on this. Go ahead quickly, sir.
I heard some rumor that Henrico County was petitioning the state to take over section of Patterson and Broad. Any truth to that? And if we can, a lot easier, we wouldn't have to go through.
I'm not sure if I can comment yes or no on that right now. I'm not sure about that. So maybe off the camera, I'll answer that a little bit better potentially. So I'm not sure what I can comment on. Let me find out. Go ahead, ma'am. Ridgetop and Patterson. I'm not aware of. I'm not on that. Again, that's a state road on Patterson. I'm I'm not totally aware of that, so let me check on that for you. We'll have to ask Mr. Hughes on that one. Okay, just in the effort of time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Owens real quick.
Thank you.
Let me go.
Oh,
We'll talk about leaves afterwards, maybe, but.
thanks. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ragush. So I'm Krista Owen. I'm the floodplain and dam safety manager. I was here, I think last year, talking to you a little bit about CRS and our flood insurance maps, flood insurance rate maps. So I'm going to just kind of talk about flood insurance specifically today. So first want to go over knowing your flood risk, some counting programs that we have, and then flood insurance coverage. So there are some different types of flood risk in the county. We have mapped floodplains, which we call special flood hazard areas. Those are based on what we call the 1% annual chance or 100-year storm. We have both FEMA and community floodplains. So that's something that makes Henrico a little bit different. Most localities in Virginia and the country just rely on FEMA entirely to map these floodplains. Where FEMA maps isn't necessarily based on the flood risk, though. It's based on standards they have in funding. And so they just kind of stop at a certain place, and that doesn't mean the flood risk stops. So Henrico decided back in the 1990s to continue that process to map where the flood risk actually is. So that's why we have these community maps as well. We also have dam break inundation zones. So that's where there are dams throughout the county, and if a dam were to fail, where it would flood. And then we also have drainage and stormwater related type flooding. And this is important because Virginia is a buyer beware state. So that means if you're buying property, no one's required to tell you about your flood risk. So we get a lot of drainage complaints sometimes from people that maybe bought a house and didn't know that there were flooding issues because nobody has to tell them, which is very frustrating on our end. So this is just a little graphic to help explain. You might hear people talking about the different years of storms or the percentages. So the 2-year storm is really more of like 2 to 10 is that kind of stormwater flooding. And they happen way more frequently, but they're smaller storms. So there's not as much water, but we get them more. And then as you move to the right, those are more rare storms, but it's a higher year frequency, a lot more water. So that 1% is what we are regulating in that mapped floodplain. We also have the 500-year storm area, that 0.2% we map as well. So hopefully we won't see those storms very often, but if we do, we know, it's going to be a lot more. We have a map that you can go and find your flood risk. So we show both the special flood hazard areas and the dam break inundation zones on that map. The easiest way to find it is just Google Henrico flood zone map or flood maps website. There are a bunch of different ways you can get to it on the website, but if you just search flood zones or flood map, that'll be the easiest way to get to it. So on the special flood hazard areas, these blue and red areas are floodplain, and then there's some darker blue as the community, and then there's some different colors that comes from the state for the dam areas of where those are flooded. So county programs, we have two really I just want to tell you about. One is that we participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, or the NFIP. We've been in that since 1981. The point of that program really is to give all of you access to flood insurance. So prior to this program existing, nobody really had access to flood insurance. It was only through private companies, and it was very, very unaffordable. So the federal government created this program so that it could be available and affordable. It's kind of questionable sometimes if it's affordable, but it is available. We also now participate in what's called the Community Rating System Program, or CRS, which our county manager's office likes to call our bonus points program. So it is something that we get points for going above and beyond, basically, with our floodplain management program. We have officially been in that since October 1st of last year, and we are a class 5 asterisk. So this is like golf, the lower the number, the better. So class 5 is the highest in the state and one of the highest in the country. The asterisk means we actually have more points, so we can go higher. We just need to meet prerequisites. And what that means for you is that you can get a 25% discount on your flood insurance premium. So we are doing lots of things like having those extra floodplain maps, and this just gives us credit for all of them to benefit you. So why do we care? Because flood insurance, homeowners and renters insurance does not cover flooding damages. So if you are flooded, that is a cost that you have to cover on your own. And most people don't know that. And a lot of people don't find out that you're in a floodplain until you're at closing for house because of that buyer beware. So there are NFIP and private flood policies available. The discount for CRS only applies to the NFIP policies, though. So you can, shop around and see what would be cheaper, but it only applies to those. And then policies have a 30-day waiting period. So you definitely don't want to wait, it's not as of an issue here, but like if you're at the beach, you don't want to wait till right before hurricane season starts because there's 30-day notice. But just want to let you know, 1 inch of water can actually cause $25,000 worth of damage to a house. So it can be a lot. I also want to just point out that for cars, our regular car insurance collision doesn't cover flood damages either. You need to have the other than collision coverage in Virginia. Other places call that comprehensive coverage. So that's something else to look at if you're not familiar with what your auto policy is. I want to just let you know that FEMA came out with this really cool new insurance quote tool on their website. Prior to about last year, the whole flood insurance policy process was very confusing. It was like 150 questionnaire. Insurance agents really didn't understand it either. So it was really hard to just get a quote. They just released this like a month or so ago, actually. And I did it the other night. It took me less than 10 minutes. And the only reason it took me as long was because I was testing something to share with you guys to get information for my property. So I went through it on my property. I've got just some pictures to show you. So when you go to this website, you can just Google NFIP flood insurance quote tool or FEMA flood quote tool, and that will get you there too. But it has some information on here of like who can complete it, how much time, what information you need. When you go through and do it, it gives you this quote. You can pick the different types of contents coverage or building coverage. Flood insurance it's 2 separate policies, buildings or contents. You can get both, but they don't come together automatically. The NFIP coverage is maxed at $250,000, $100,000 for building and contents. You can also play with a deductible to play around with like what your cost is. So it'll give you a quote. This was for my house. I'm not in the floodplain. If you're in the floodplain, it's going to be higher than $400. But so this was one of them, and this was with the lowest deductible option. And there were, I think, 3 or 4 options it gave me. And it actually, like I said, it took me less than 10 minutes, which was way faster than I got from my insurance agent that I asked for a year ago. And it was also a lot cheaper than what I got from them. Then it gives you information on like next steps. You can download everything. You can email it to somebody. And then it has a lot of information too about like, if you need help understanding it, it gives you options for insurance agents, like companies that you can reach out to. You can also just start with your current insurance agent. But I wanted to let you know that we have this real estate tool on our website that will give you all of the information that you need if you're not familiar with it. So you need things like when your house was built, the square footage, what the foundation is, what the walls are made out of, things like that. So if you just Google Henrico property search, it's the very first option. You can get to this a few other ways as well, but you can search by your property, or if you're buying a property or interested in buying one, you can look it up and get this information, fill out that quote tool and find out what it is. I'm not sure. I don't think the CRS discount is factored into the quote. I need to figure that out, but it is super easy. And so I want to let you guys know that this is there too. You can get all the information you need very quickly. That's why it took me 10 minutes, because I use this. So without this, if you already know all your home information, it'd probably take you 5 minutes. I want to let you know too, just for questions, we have a flood help desk. We set this up last year when we did the new map update. We've kept it up. We've just kind of turned it into just a general all flood related questions help desk. So we've got an email, flood@henrico.gov. We've got a special phone number. If you call the phone number, you'll get a voicemail. We'll call you back. There's also floodsmart.gov, which is the FEMA website. That's kind of all things flood insurance for NFIP. And then they have their own hotline that you can call as well. I recommend calling us first, because a lot of times they'll just turn around and tell you to call us. But if you have like specific questions about a flood insurance policy that you can't get from your insurance agent, they can help you with that too. So that's all I have. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. 25% discount on flood insurance. Thank you.
Sorry, that was fast. Trying to make
Great. All the work that you've done on this. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yeah. We have one more, and then we'll go to some questions. Yeah, Mr. Rob Rowley, go ahead. An emergency.
All right, I'll talk fast. I know we're running late here. So my name is Rob. I'm the director of our Department of Emergency Management. And one of the services that we provide to our residents during crisis is emergency alerting. Yeah, I'm not eating the ice cream cone close enough. And the alerting system that we use is Everbridge. It's a third-party system. That's what we all use for emergency alerting. It is actually the official system of the entire country of Norway. So that's got to count for something, right? But the interesting thing about public alerting is a lot of folks kind of assume that, oh, we're the government, we have access to your information. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. All right, so there's actually a law, and I'm not a lawyer, so please don't ask me for the name of it, but I could Google it if I had to. There is a law that basically says I can only use your information in the way that you intended it. So the fact that you give public utilities all of your information for billing, I can't just go in and say, well, surely you want to receive emergency alerts and take that information and put it into our system. Not allowed to do that. We do work through our vendor to purchase information the same way that the spam calls you get, right? They buy your information from Verizon or whatever else. We can do that kind of stuff. It doesn't work very well. And the biggest thing that we figured out these days is people move. They buy a cell phone in Oklahoma and they move to Richmond and they don't tell Verizon, hey, I've moved, update their address or their address, right? So a lot of the information gets stale quickly. The best 100% most reliable and accurate way to make sure that you get emergency alerts from us are to sign up for them. And that is, there's a QR code right there that you see. There are also some handouts in the back. Please take them for anyone that you think may be well served by this. It's got a QR code as well as the website, alert.henrico.gov. That's where you can go and sign up for your alerts. I want to emphasize, we don't send junk alerts, and we try to really, really target our alerts because we know from the industry nationwide that people will get about 2 or 3 notifications that don't apply to them, and they're going to go, let me turn that feature off, right? They silence the alerts in their cell phone and they stop getting them. We get it. I get it. Trust me. So we try to be very, very focused with our alerting. So you're not going to get some kind of an alert from us, like a bunch of routine tests. We're not going to tell you by emergency alert to change the batteries in your smoke alarm. That's what the news and social media is for, all that kind of stuff. You're going to get just really good, important alerts from us. So on the way out, grab one of these in the corner over there, scan the QR code, whatever helps you out, whatever works well for you. Also in the back, emergency management, we love our swag. All right, so you're going to see a couple of these. These little leaflets have a QR code and a website for a public survey that goes live tomorrow. So please don't call me tonight saying, hey, the link's not working. It goes live tomorrow. And what we know is that emergency management works best when it's delivered as close to the ground as possible, right, at the local government level, and when it's tailored to the communities. So all we're going to do is ask you a couple of things about what you do to be prepared, what could help you be more prepared, that kind of stuff. And all we're going to do with that information is tailor our programs to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community. Completely optional, but it does help us make sure that we're providing what you need, right? So again, there's a bunch of these back in the corner over there. By the way, there are also some awesome blue cups over there that all of this stuff fits into quite nicely on your way out. Take one of those. And there's a magnet. So sticking with the theme of communications, this magnet has a lot of the really common phone numbers that we're asked about a lot, right? So if you're trying to figure out who to call about water, sewer, and trash, about roads, if you have a question, but it's not an emergency, if you want to call about recycling, power outages, gas outages, the really common stuff, all of the numbers are right here, and it's got our cool EM logo on there so that every time you look at this, you can think about us and ask yourself, are my family and I prepared? And while you're at it, with communications, on your way out, snag one of these off the table back there. It's a little kind of a guide that you can work through with your home, and it will help you write a emergency communications plan for your household. And it's got just a lot of good little nuggets in here also about the fact that during a disaster, you are much more likely to get a text message through than you are a phone call because of the bandwidth requirements and all that kind of stuff. So during a tornado, if you want to get a hold of your spouse, you're better off texting than you are calling. A bunch of little tidbits like that are in this thing also. So again, snag one of these on the way out. And sign up for our emergency alerts. Again, we're not going to blow you up with spam, but it'll help us to make sure that we can get information to you during times of crisis. With that, any questions? Yes.
The law that you're mentioning,
Yeah, it's a lot of the same words at least. That's probably right. That sounds about right. Excellent question. All right, so I will, I'm, good, checks in the mail, good prompt.
Get alerts on.
Sure.
You're not.
Exactly, exactly. Right. Yeah, right. Yeah. No, good question. Thank you. And so, and I'll also be careful to mention, we don't do the Amber alerts. That's a function of the state. But the kind of alerts that we will do is, so if we get, we'll work with police sometimes and they'll have a missing person and they'll have a focus area. So we actually had a great success story at the end of last year for a 88-year-old person who had dementia, wandered away from the home. We were able to work with police, get a good description, get an alert out to the community in the area, right? A very focused area. And someone who got our alert, literally 10 minutes later, looked out of their kitchen window and went, hey, that's them. Called 911, got the person back to their home. So we'll do stuff like that when it makes sense. You're not going to get an alert from us about someone who went missing 5 days ago, right? So again, working with police, we make sure that we send alerts for things that make sense and not for things that don't make sense, or where a different medium makes sense, like social media, the local news, stuff like that. We have also sent alerts before, for example, and I can't recall where it was in the county, but there was a police activity that there was a valid concern for the safety of anyone in the area. There was a concern about the possible exchange of gunfire. It never happened, thankfully, but there was a concern about it. And so we sent an alert to the area immediately around the scene to say, hey, avoid this area, active police incident. And by the way, if you're in the area, stay indoors, lock your doors, all that kind of stuff, right? And then we can also use them, not so much like for a routine traffic crash, because those just happen all the time. But let's just say you have a traffic crash with a tanker that's leaking a toxic chemical. We would alert the area around that of, hey, avoid the area. If you're at home, go indoors, stay indoors until advised further, all that kind of stuff. So great question. But those are the kinds of alerts you'll see from us with our system. Yes, ma'am.
At another water crisis, would we get an alert for that?
Yes. So great question. So actually the water crisis was, and the need for the boil water notice was the first time, and this is a good problem to have. This is the first time we've ever done a county-wide alert. And that actually helped us figure out that more of the data than we wanted was out of date, which has obviously kicked off now the campaign that we have to get folks to opt in, because there are a bunch of ways that we may get your information, but nothing's going to be as reliable as if you opt in. But yeah, so we can do county-wide alerts, again, if necessary. Good question. Yes.
Numerous ones in my neighborhood because it's not serviced by underground.
Oh, sure.
And a couple months, one time, 17 hours, I had no.
Oh, sure.
And
yeah,
Dominion Power is very negligent. They just say, yeah, it's out. We don't know when it'll be back on. 10 hours later.
Yeah. So
with no heat and light.
Yeah. So what I will say is, so the Department of Emergency Management, and especially when there's like county level disasters and our emergency operations center is open, we do coordinate extensively with Dominion Power, but it's not related to their messaging. So what we're doing is we can sometimes either do things like help establish priorities for Dominion. So for example, during power restorations, making sure that our hospitals and places like assisted living centers, places that may be housing medically, electrically dependent people. We can focus on getting them restored, right? So we provide that information to Dominion to help them in their decision making with power restorations, and then we can help support Dominion as appropriate by providing things like traffic control, road clearing, and things like that to support their power restoration efforts. But we have nothing to do as far as their messaging or any of that kind of stuff.
I just want to also say to Rob Rowley, hold on one second, just thank you so much for everything you did during the water crisis. This guy, hundreds of thousands of cases of water, 300,000 tanks, 100 tractor trailer loads, tankers. Again, when you talk about emergency management, it's the preparation leading up to the emergency. And so he has done a fantastic job with that. And then through the emergency, through the crisis, I don't think he slept for about 3 days during the process. I know you didn't sleep for 3 days, so because I saw text messages. But anyways, thank you very much for everything you did for that to keep all of us safe. Okay, I have 3 or 4 questions from on. Oh, I'm sorry, somebody had a question up front. Yeah. Okay, we'll get to the board. Okay, you put me out of order. The board tonight, 7 p.m. The Paris novel. We had anybody from the library in here? No. 27. Oh yes, there you are. What did we have last year? 2,700 people show up. 2,000 that showed up. So we're trying to beat that tonight, right? So 7 o'clock at the Henrico Sports and Events Center this evening for a discussion on the novel, the Paris novel. So try to get out there for that tonight. Also, one other thing, the calendar, April the 7th, we have a press conference on a park, not the park that you suggested, but it is a park in Tuckahoe. So please, April the 7th, be out near the Shell station behind the Shell station on Patterson and West Briar and Lauderdale area back through there. You'll see that. And it'll be on my page too on a press conference out there. So that'll be exciting. Not next week, but the following week. So 2 dates. So tonight, Henrico Sports and Events Center, April 7th for that. I do have a couple of questions, and I did want to answer your question about the roads, just so you know. The road, for everybody, Henrico County is only one of 2 localities in the Commonwealth that maintains our own roads, right? It's a huge advantage in a lot of ways. Things that sometimes we say we can't do that because VDOT, our guys will say it'll take a year to get VDOT to do something, and we can do it much, much quicker. So we are having discussions on certain parts of roads. I don't know specifically on that one, but we are actively trying to take more roads from the state into our system. Let us maintain them. Let us fix the potholes, plow them, et cetera. It'll give us a lot of advantages. And how that's funded is, through the gas tax. It comes off the top line from the state, and we get that money, and that's what we use to maintain our roads. So it's something that I know myself, my colleagues were all interested in doing and taking more of that in. So it's complicated, as you can imagine, but we are working on it. So there was a question online about, please include some background on why the governor vetoed the bipartisan bill to allow us to vote on the gambling partner plan for Glenside and Staples Mill. I want to know what steps are being taken by our senators and delegates to override the veto. I am not going to touch the fact of why he did it, why he vetoed it, but if you've followed anything on the news, a little bit complicated. Back in the 90s, we as Henrico residents, we voted a referendum to allow off-track betting. And you remember maybe on the Broad Street, there was a place there you could go in and you could bet on a horse, get a sandwich, and go about your business. The Rosie's, if you haven't been to the Rosie's, it's down at the corner of Midlothian and Chippenham, effectively the old Kmart down. It's actually in the city of Richmond, so you may not have been there, but that place is really, they have some live betting, but there's probably 150 slot machines there. So they had the right to do that because they had, anyways, long story short, we tried to stop that in Henrico, Staples Mill over in Glenside, and we tried to get a budget amendment to prevent that from happening. The governor came in and vetoed it. So it's possible that the Colonial Downs will put something there. The second part of the question is what steps are being done. So in Virginia, right, you have the House, you have the Senate, they pass a law. In Virginia, the governor can come in with his pen and he can veto or he can amend certain things. And he has done that. That's his right. The only way it's a 2/3 vote of the House and the Senate that would need to occur. So we are working with our Henrico delegation, Rodney Willett and Skylar Van Valkenburg. Those are our representatives here to try to get 2/3. I don't know that will happen one way or the other, but we will find out next Wednesday. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's by next Wednesday is the deadline. I'm seeing a shaking head. So we'll find out for sure next Wednesday. So that's what we're doing on that. There was a question on a sewage pump station off of River Road, and I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Chan if he doesn't mind answering that one. You want me to read the question, or you got it?
I can read the question.
Okay.
All right. So the sewage pump station off of River Road, backing up to Tuckahoe Creek in the Fox Chapel subdivision. Are there any plans to again destroy additional woodlands, wetlands, and the creek itself adjacent to Tuckahoe Creek? So there are no plans to destroy woodlands, wetlands, or the creek, but there are plans to renew that station to give it more capacity. But I will say that over the past at least 20 years since I have been working at the county, we have decreased the overflow volume from that station significantly, and we continue to do so. And so these last few years have been the lowest I've ever seen, which is not to say that there shouldn't be any. So there should not be any, but we are working on that, and we're continuing to help mitigate that. And then I'm told recent improvements were to accommodate sewage from Goochland to be pumped through the Henrico subdivision. So there is a coordinated effort between Henrico and Goochland. There's a really big pipe that runs along River Road that Henrico and Goochland share that we both have capacity in, and so we manage that together. Noise from the plant, from trucks and landscape maintenance equipment is loud, plus the additional reports of odors and raw sewage overflow are disturbing. So let me look into the loud noises. We were fairly sure that that was screened very well so that the noise wouldn't go out, but we will check. And yes, we will also work on any odors or and sewage overflows.
I have two other questions. One regarding Dominion Power. Do they have any plans to run underground power lines to Western Henrico off River Road? I don't have the address to this person, but I will tell if they're looking, if that person's here. There is a website on Dominion's website. You can look to see where they are with underground lines. It's a very good website. Email me at Tuckahoe if you can't find it, tuckahoe@henrico.gov. I'll send you that website. You can look on the Dominion site to see where they have plans for underground. And if there's a location that's not on there, there's a lot in Tuckahoe, to be honest with you, that they have plans to put underground. So please look at that. And I will say that one thing I learned about Dominion this year, I did download the app for the power outages. It's easier to navigate the app, the Dominion app, when there's a power outage than it is the website. So just to answer your question earlier, you might find a little bit more information on the app, maybe not. So I'm not a Dominion guy, so I did download the app. And then the last question I had, are you in communication with our Democratic representations in Congress? Can you offer any insight into what's being done to counter the chaos that seems to be growing worse every day in the national government? Not really. I mean, there's nothing, we don't have a communication, really. I've talked to Rob Whitman, I've talked to Senator Kane and Senator Warner on occasion. So, the reality is that money does come down from the federal government to Henrico County. So far, nothing has been identified in here that we're not going to get. So we are still working towards our budget, et cetera. So we'll kind of see what happens with it. So that's all I had did anything come in, Ms. Victoria? Okay, nothing else online? Yes, sir. You had a question? Yeah. We are still moving forward to find another developer. We are still committed to the project from Henrico County. We did not lose any taxpayer dollars through it. We did lose probably 2.5 years of time, unfortunately, but the way we had it set up, we will get the money back that was invested, and we are still moving forward looking for another developer on it. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
when maybe there would be some kind of a meeting, either with you or with the school board, with the Doge, the Doge things where they are eliminating a lot, or they're proposing to eliminate $880 billion in Medicaid, and then the destruction of the Department of Education. Will that be discussed anywhere within Henrico as to how that's going to impact schools? And I will just say, with Medicaid, for those of you who don't know, it really affects and a lot of people, a lot of situations, but really affects families with children with disabilities. Those are some of the children who have some of the highest needs educationally. And for us to be able to address their needs in schools, they have to have access to Medicaid. Now, that's the only thing I'm going to say, other than, do you know when this is going to be addressed, either with you all in the Board of Supervisors or the school board?
All I can say is we have talked at I won't say high level because we've gotten into the details on where the money is coming from federally that affect. And for example, we learned $35 million comes from the federal government for feeding our kids inside of elementary school, middle school, high schools. That's breakfast and lunch. So $35 million. If it goes away, how are we going to cover that? I don't know the answer, but we think it will still be there. Again, the plan is to still come to the state. State will send it down to locality. So we're just not sure. I mean, we don't know, quite frankly. But we know we want to feed kids in schools. So I really can't answer you because we don't really know what's coming and going potentially. If once we get some information, we will absolutely be more than happy to have more talks like this, or when we get more information on it. Any other questions? Yes, sir. You've asked. You're going to get the prize on the way out. Make sure you get 2 blue cups on the way out because you've asked the most questions.
Yes, sir. So since we have no ambulance coverage in the county from the city line, 64 over to Parham, and everything south of Patterson. Those fire stations don't have ambulances in them. Do we have any timeline of when they may get one? It's
a great question, sir. And I did learn last week, there are 4 fire stations in Henrico County without an ambulance. Some of that is, as you know, just because an engine comes and there's not an ambulance does not mean that they can't provide EMS services. So EMS services would come to you, can't be transported from an ambulance. Some of that's history with some of the volunteer rescue squads, and there are reasons, et cetera. But I did ask this same question last week to our fire chief about the ambulance not being there at 2 fire stations in Tuckahoe district. So we are working on it. They're pulling some data together to make sure there's a good use case for it and make sure it makes sense. But we are, it was one of, I don't know, I probably asked 50 questions last week, but it was an important enough question for me on the fire side to ask the question. So stay tuned. It'll be easy and quick.
Yes or no? Do you believe in informed consent?
Yeah. You keep going back to the water. Any other questions outside of water? I believe in it, yes. Oh, you said one quick question. Fair enough. Next time. Okay, well, what else? Anyone else? Listen, look, for me, coming here is important, right? I'm your elected official in Tuckahoe. I want to be accessible. I've given you my email 3 or 4 times. My cell phone is out there. It's not hard to find. If you email me and ask me for my cell phone, I will give you my personal cell phone number. I'm more than happy to address things. I don't know everything. We have a great staff that I can point to answers for, but I do want to be accessible. I think that's important for you guys to know your local elected official, and you can ask me questions. And we may not always agree on some things here or there, but it is an opportunity for you to get out and talk with me. And we'll try to do this again in a couple months and give you any more updates. Any other questions? With that, you had a statement? Okay, so April 7th, we're going to have a press conference. Okay, April 17th, we're going to have a community meeting. It's at Carver Elementary. See why I didn't want to mention it, because I don't know where it is yet. I'm just kidding. But I think it's going to be at Carver Elementary School at 6:30 on the 17th, so you can put that down, but we'll get you the information through email as well. That'll be a community meeting to talk about possibly some park enhancements behind, if you know where the Pat O'Bannon walk is off of Ridgefield to Old Coach, a park meeting, yes, sir. Yeah. On April 17th. Okay. All right. With that, thank you all very much. I appreciate you being out here. Thank you.